Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going?
Yeah, it's going pretty good.
I notice you're holding your mic today.
Yeah, so I'm still back in California visiting family. So I'm holed up in my in-laws' office and without all my recording equipment. So going a little ad hoc today.
You look like a little bit like DJ Derrick.
Yeah, it's like I feel like a television host right now.
Yeah. Yeah, are you going to ask me some game show questions?
Yeah. Speaking of game shows, have you heard of the app HQ?
No.
So friends of ours told us about this, but it's basically it's interesting. It's a new app. I think they started back in August, and I think it was one of the co-founders of Vine that started this. They raised like $1 million, created this app, and it's basically a trivia app that is live 2 times a day. So it just like sends you a push notification. It's at like noon and 6 Pacific time every day. And there's usually at least $1,000 up for grabs, 12 questions. And it's like a host comes on and he's speaking live and presenting the questions. And there's like real-time comments, which is, obviously full of junk. So you hide those. But I don't know. Recently, there's been about 220,000 people online every time. So it's like a interesting new app business model. I mean, I don't know if I can call it a business, but I had not seen something like that before.
Have you been playing it? Have you tried it?
Yeah, it's kind of addictive. It's been interesting.
Nice. What's up with you in Drip World? Are you doing any work while you're out on the West Coast?
It's been a little bit like quasi working. This week I've been doing about half-time. When I visit family, it's always usually for a 2-week stint, and calendar gets packed full with lunches and dinners with friends and family and stuff. So been kind of like filling in the cracks with some work, trying to do a little bit of more high-level thinking work and less like trying to write actual code because my time's kind of split up a bit.
Makes sense. It's been a light week for me, actually. Well, like Thanksgiving was last week, and then got back to things this week. But I've kind of just been moving forward on the code quality stuff and sending out challenges, and that's kind of it, actually.
Okay. I occasionally jot down notes in my notebook on like things to discuss on the podcast, and I have several of them that we could dive into.
Yeah, peel it off.
All right. So one of the high-level things I've been thinking about is now that we're past Black Friday, team structures are going to shift around a little bit on the Drip product side.
One quick thing, though. Like, how did that go, by the way?
Oh, yeah. I think I mentioned a little bit about it last time, but we officially made it through Black Friday and Cyber Monday unscathed.
Awesome. So, congrats. Yeah. Well done.
And it turns out like I think we weren't totally sure whether Black Friday or Cyber Monday which one would be higher volume. And it turned out Cyber Monday was higher volume, but we were all kind of focused predominantly on Black Friday because that was, during holiday time, a lot of folks taking time off, visiting family and stuff like that. So yeah, we made it through both days. No queue backups, deliveries going fast. So yeah, feeling really good. Like during this time leading up to it, I allocated a bunch of engineering resources to kind of just shoring up and making sure that we were all prepared. So now 1 or 2 engineers are going to be shifting back to our core product team, which is kind of the team that is responsible for adding new features to the product. So that leaves us with, I think, about 8 or 9, depending on how you count it, engineers, designers, JavaScript folks who are going to be working on features. So I've been thinking about this team is larger than it's ever been, and what's the best way to structure our work to make sure we keep shipping fast. It's probably a little bit too big to consider it one team. So most conventional wisdom seems to be like 3-person teams works well. I've seen 4-person teams time to time when you need 4 different roles or functions represented on the team. So I've been giving that a bit of thought. And one article that was published recently on Medium was an article called Running in Circles by Ryan Singer from Basecamp. And they're obviously a company that I admire heavily and look up to. They've been at it for over 15 years, still shipping product. So I thought I'd highlight a few of the takeaways from that article. He starts out kind of calling out Agile and kind of the blind, I guess, following of Agile methodologies. And this is kind of like the money quote. He says, people in our industry think they stopped doing waterfall and switched to Agile. In reality, they just switched to high-frequency waterfall.
Mm-hmm.
the spirit of Agile is good, but in practice, I think there's some nuance to consider when you're thinking of adopting Agile methodologies.
And what's the crucial difference between those two?
I think traditional Agile is less amenable to mutable requirements. Like you tend to lock in what work's going to happen in your sprint and then less likely to be changed based on what you learn as you start to build features and what you're learning from customers and what's coming in from the market. At least that's kind of how I interpret what he's saying.
Mm-hmm. So he's saying that short sprints don't make a process agile. It's the ability to change them as you go.
Yeah, exactly. So he kind of like buckets them into 3 different points. And the first one is, first highlights that, of course, working in cycles is something that works well for Basecamp. And they have a separate blog post, I think we've mentioned it on the podcast before, about kind of their process of how they work in 6-week cycles, which feels long to me, but they works for them. 6-week cycles and then 2 weeks at the end to kind of tie up loose ends and plan for the next 6-week cycle. And they kind of bucket features into like large batch projects that maybe will take the full 6 weeks, and then smaller batch projects that are, less than the 6-week time frame. Point number 1 is deliberate resource allocation. This is basically trying to eliminate as much distraction from the people who are working on things dedicated to that cycle as possible, and keeping teams really small. So Basecamp adheres to the three-person team, 1 designer, 2 programmers, and giving that team autonomy to figure out how to accomplish their tasks is kind of the first point.
Meaning like freedom to flex the requirements and a freedom from distraction of other things? Is that the idea?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
And another point is like, for example, if you have bugs that need to get fixed, try to be deliberate about saying like, okay, we're going to allocate a certain amount of time for this team to work on bugs. And rather than just letting things creep in and all of a sudden you don't realize where all your time has gone, or, if bug fixes are a thing that you need to be working on in the next couple of weeks or whatever, then be sure to allocate resources towards that and not just let that be an amorphous thing that eats away at people's time. Second point was mutable requirements. So this is something that I think I've realized is pretty important to our process, is like we try to project how a feature needs to look, but until you get it in front of customers or potential users, you don't really know what the right implementation looks like. We can try to figure out when we're wireframing things or mapping things out what the best implementation of a feature looks like, but until you actually start implementing it, you don't know where the pain points are going to come in the actual implementation. One thing they call out is like a programmer could struggle to refactor a bunch of JavaScript just to make this one little control function well on the feature. And that could end up burning a bunch of time when it would have been perfectly acceptable to just say like, oh, we don't need that to be a dropdown. That can just be a toggle switch and you don't have to invest all this time. So, but I think if you don't have engineering feeding back into the product decision loop, then you could end up with product being adamant that, no, this is the way it should be implemented. And that ends up spiraling out of control on the engineering side.
Totally. I've actually never worked in an environment where that wasn't the case. Like I feel like I've always had that ability, like mid coding, to be like, actually, this is like way too hard. Let's try something simpler and it'll save us a bunch of time, which I feel fortunate for. Is that sort of how you work as well, your teams?
Yeah, that's how Drip has always been. I think because, Rob and I are both engineers, and since we're kind of the ones responsible for the product direction, which is not always the case. Some organizations have engineering siloed away from product, and the two kind of interface with each other as like, independent units in the company. And I think that is not a good way to structure it. It's never been the case for Drip, but it's just a nice reminder that like, as we build out our product organization, and add more product people to the team, we should not be, trying to silo these two. They really need to be connected. Actually, it's a model where kind of on the extreme end, I think David Cancel talks a bit about how his engineers essentially function as product people too. So engineers are talking directly to customers. They have product people on the team, but those product people are primarily responsible for looking out ahead into the future and trying to figure out what market opportunities are there in the next 6 months or something, whereas the designers and engineers kind of spearhead the day-to-day product work and interfacing with customers. I don't think you can just immediately jump there. Like, we don't have engineers regularly talking to customers because I think it becomes a tricky time allocation challenge. Like, how can we allow our engineers to keep their flow and keep moving forward on features when also they have this responsibility to talk directly to customers? I don't think it's certainly not impossible, but it's an interesting challenge to think through on how to accomplish.
I feel like the more layers there are between the people actually using the stuff and the people building the stuff, the worse your stuff will turn out generally.
Yeah, exactly. The same is pretty true for Drip. I mean, the distance between our engineers and customers is maybe only one layer separated most of the time, whereas I think other organizations probably could have many more layers in between there. So
yeah, I feel like one is probably fine and doable, but as you add more, you're in danger zone.
Yep, for sure. And so that was point number 2, mutable requirements. Point number 3 is he calls uphill strategies. And this is kind of all about thinking of tasks in terms of like a bell curve distribution of difficulty. Like, early on, you have a lot of unknowns, and it's kind of impossible to even to put story points on a lot of tasks because you don't know what you don't know. So you have to leave time at the beginning of a task to just suss out the biggest risks and the biggest unknowns with it. And then as you learn more, that feeds back into clarity on what should actually go into the first iteration of the feature.
That matches my experience really well. At Thoughtbot, at one point, we built a project management tool for software projects that we wanted to use with our clients, and it had point estimates in it. And over maybe like an 18-month period, we kind of realized these are just not worth it. They're always wrong, and sometimes wrong by a lot. And they give the impression that you can be basically right and that you can basically schedule and plan things. And that's kind of not really true in practice, which feels crazy. I don't know. It's almost embarrassing to be in a field where it's like, how long will this take? And we're like, well, we can't really tell you. It's like, but every other field would give me an estimate. And we're like, yeah, it's 3 to 12 weeks or something, depending on what we run into along the way.
Because I think a lot of people think of software development as a scientific process where, you have a certain bullet list of functionality you need to add, and therefore you can assign a time value to each bullet point and add them up and get a reasonable estimate. But in practice, that's never how it works. I think it's because it's a creative endeavor. It's a complex system. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things to consider. There's life in production. There's design. There's the medium you're working in, HTML. There's on and on. The list goes on. And I've always found the most high value features are the ones that are pretty impossible to estimate. And we can usually estimate how long it's going to take to do a minor bug fix if there's almost zero unknowns, and we can almost envision in our head the lines of code that need to change. Then you can put an estimate on that. But how valuable is that really?
Right. The other thing that's hard to predict is what it's going to be like once you've actually got it. So even if you could accurately predict the time required to build the 8 things you think you need to build, once you've built those things, you're kind of like, this isn't actually what I wanted. Or this, I thought this would be good, but it sucks. And I didn't anticipate that this would be annoying. And so it's hard to estimate the individual tasks, and it's hard to understand what it will be like once you're there. And so both of those things need to flex during development.
Yep, exactly.
Or we just suck at this, and this is actually really easy, and maybe in 20 years, humans will be so much better at this. We'll have figured out a lot of things and have built better processes and such. And they'll be like, man, we used to be flying in the dark.
Yeah,
we were so dumb back then. But I don't know. I'm skeptical.
I think to get there, we would have to machine learn away creativity, and I think maybe we'll get there someday. But if you could distill it down to an algorithm that is deterministically able to produce a feature that's both usable and matches a spec, then maybe we'll get there. But I think that still requires that intangible human taste and creativity that computers can't do.
Would you guess that today projects are more accurately estimated and more on time than 20 years ago? Do you think we've made progress here? I don't honestly know.
I don't know.
If there's a graph of like estimate quality over time, what is the slope? Like the marketing would have you believe that we're getting better at it, I guess. Like people that are like proposing certain methodologies are saying like this is going to make us better at this, and we didn't have this methodology before, so it should be sloping in the down, should be getting better. But is it? I don't know.
Well, I think that's certainly the agile theory, right? Is like as your team, the more work a given team does together, the more you're able to basically use historical data to compute what your forward-going velocity is going to be. Like theoretically, it's supposed to get more accurate over time as a team works together, but I just can't.
I don't think that's true.
Seen it in practice. Is that not true?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I don't think it's. I mean, anecdotally, I don't think that's true. Like because of the same problems that we've been talking about. Like, yeah, we know how long it took us to implement that last feature, but that last feature now makes everything else more complex to implement, and like we still can't picture what it's going to be like once we have the new things. So, yeah, I'm not sure that's borne out in practice.
Yeah. At least I rarely see it in practice. Maybe someone out there is doing it well.
My sense is, from having worked on various client projects at Thoughtbot and like seeing other teams, it didn't really feel like we were ever really behind a deadline. So it'd be like, okay, we have to launch this on December 1st, but we would only agree to those deadlines when it was like, okay, we can flex on certain things. Like if you have a hard deadline, we can hit hard deadlines, but we have to be able to chop stuff out and get at the essential core to hit those deadlines because it's so hard to predict where we'll be by then. I don't ever remember someone being like, oh man, we really needed this by this date and we're 3 weeks past it and we're not even close. But there were definitely times where it was like, oh, we had to hit this date. And so there was stuff we wanted to get in there, but we didn't. But that's, usually okay.
And I think that's the big point about the mutable requirements thing is like, separate the core from the periphery is what Ryan says, and figure out what's the essence of this feature and what are the things that like maybe made it into a spec and are kind of like suggestions on how to implement it, but aren't really necessarily required to produce at least a minimum viable feature. So if you give teams the power to redefine the scope, then the theory that Basecamp has, and I think they've seen this borne out in practice, is that you can pretty much produce a minimum viable feature of anything in 6 weeks. So like once you've committed to doing it, that's your only deadline is like get the kernel of this feature at least completed in a 6-week cycle. And then you can always circle back, add it to your next cycle and add more to it. But the key is like, you have 6 weeks. You're free to have mutable, like hammer down your scope as much as possible and as much as you need to get it done. And that's really the driving factor.
That's a good topic.
Yeah. This one was a helpful one. Just gets me thinking about ways to structure cycles and cadence and all that. One other one that I want to highlight as I've been kind of researching how teams structure their work is Spotify. So this is actually a few years old, but they have a 2-part post where they have like a nice 10-minute video on each post outlining how they structure their teams, how they structure their work. They have an interesting concept. I'm not sure who actually invented it, if it was them, or at least the nomenclature, but they call basically their teams are squads, and they're cross-functional teams, which I think I'm a big fan of slicing vertically in the stack, where you don't have like a team of designers and a team of Rails engineers, and they have to work with each other to get things done. Like I would prefer the team to be assembled of a designer and programmers and whoever's required to actually ship the feature, right?
Yep.
One of the challenges we've been thinking through is like a lot of features these days with Drip need to scale. And our scaling challenges a lot of them are kind of beyond the scope of what a, typical like full stack Rails engineer, like their zone of genius, right? So we have some folks on the team who are like distributed systems engineers and are deep in those technologies and have built large scale systems. And so it'd be great to have that knowledge represented on teams that are building new features. But I think the challenge comes in like, now we have an engineering manager of our platform team essentially who also has similar scaling experience. And so how do we work with like our feature building teams and get cross-functional knowledge from our platform scaling ops team? And like what parts of that team do we just consider a shared resource that it's an independent team, and what members of that team will like assemble teams with people from our feature building teams and people from our platform team to come together to build features. And diving into the way Spotify does it, they one of the interesting things that they highlight is that, you know, you can think of a squad as a vertical cross-functional team, and then they call it a chapter when you look you slice the other direction and you look at the roles that people have. And people are actually their manager is basically the lead of their chapter. So if you have, say, 2 teams and there's a hardcore like ops scaling engineer on each of those teams, then those ops people would be in an ops and scaling chapter, and they'd be managed by a ops and scaling manager. So that's, I think, potentially the right direction for us, is like thinking about, we have these different layers of the stack, and you know, the people who are heavy on the back end ops scaling side are kind of managed by one team and kind of work together, but then they split off into independent cross-functional teams to actually ship features.
How many engineers do you have total these days?
I think we're around like 15. So not huge by any stretch.
Not crazy, yeah. Could you have pictured this day when you started? Did you think you'd ever get here? When it was like you typing Rails new?
No, I couldn't have pictured what it would look like.
Did you ever fantasize about this point? We're like, oh man, maybe one day we'll be a huge team, or did that not even like? Did you indulge in that?
Not really. I can't recall. Things are always messier and more complicated in practice than they are in your head. So
yeah.
I laugh that like there's like Spotify is a team of 1,000 engineers, and they're talking about this process. So it may be way overkill to even
seriously.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
they send you music over the internet, right?
I know.
1,000 engineers,
or at least 1,000 in their product delivery. I don't know if that includes product managers and designers and all that, but yeah, I think the number 1,000 was floated in their video.
That sounds insane to me.
Yeah,
I can't even believe that.
So by comparison, like maybe I'm way overthinking this and might be foolish to even be looking at a team of 1,000 and look at their practices. But at the same time, like all the leadership at Drip is always thinking about optimizing process. And
sure. Or you just need to hire 985 more people into the dev team.
Maybe that's the secret.
And then you'll have the perfect process to assign them to things.
Yeah.
I mean, Spotify
Perhaps.
just plays music. You guys send all kinds of email. You have workflows. You're building an email builder. You need hire at least 200 engineers just to get going, you know?
I know. And I can't even imagine. What's the largest engineering organization you've been in?
Well, okay. So I worked at, my first programming job was at a medical software company. So we made software for hospitals. And it was like the whole suite of tools, meaning like you would buy this package and it was like your accounting department, your doctors would order medications, your pharmacy would, like every piece of software that you'd use in a hospital. And I think that whole company was like, I want to say like maybe 2,000 people and probably 600 programmers, probably somewhere in that range.
Wow. Were there like a bunch of small teams then? Or were you on like...
It was split up by product, basically. So it was like I was on the team, it was called order entry. It was like, you know, the thing that people would use to order medications and procedures and things like that.
I have trouble fathoming even how that... And even like you think of like the Facebooks of the world where there's theoretically... I mean, I know they have a large monolith and maybe they have other services too, but at the core of Facebook is this large monolith and that literally thousands of engineers. Like, how are they possibly coordinating that work?
How
it's kind of mind-blowing.
How indeed.
It's kind of mind-blowing. Yeah.
How do you make progress with that many people? Can't we just get rid of half these people and still move about as fast because we have less communication requirements now? Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the advantages of being small is like, you know, when our first 9 months when it was literally just me coding, the only communication barrier was from one side of my brain to the other, you know, and between me and Rob. So things were lightning fast in terms of like, I was crazy productive just getting the MVP of the product built. And then when we were a small team, we were all sitting in an office and still like communication was lightning fast. we were competing against companies that had hundreds of engineers and getting close to feature parity with those organizations.
Yeah. How does that work? How do you get to that point where like you're suddenly like, okay, now we have 100 engineers? I guess you just sort of don't notice that you're slowing down like they are slowing down, right? Like you kind of have to be just because of the communication overhead.
It's probably hard to say what's to blame, whether it's the size of the team or the like just the age of the code base, because legacy slows you down too. Even if you're not adding more people, you do slow down gradually over time as you get locked into your own legacy, unless you do something like Basecamp and rewrite your product, and that opens you up to going greenfield again. I feel like I want to crack that nut. Like how can we proactively never slow down to the point where we've seen a number of our competitors slow down significantly, where it appears they can hardly get anything shipped, and that's when you're vulnerable,
Totally. I haven't seen that from the inside, like what that's like. I feel like it must be the case that you reach a thing where the increment or the marginal improvement in productivity with adding a person declines over time, and sometimes is probably negative. If we were trying to get a Rails app off the ground and you said, okay, let's do it with a team of 2. No, wait, 4. No, wait, 16. Eventually, like adding a 17th person is like, we're going to go slower because of this. This will make it hard. Like even just dividing the work among this many people will take so much time that it's a net negative. How do you detect that and prevent it?
From what I've seen, I think one of the main things you can do is hire slowly. But I think that's difficult if you have a mandate to build out a team fast, which fortunately we don't have arbitrary mandates like that. We've talked to some like engineering leadership type folks who have told us stories about like, yeah, I started with this startup within this large company, and we were building out our MVP and our product, and within 9 months we staffed up to 100 engineers. And I'm like, I don't know how you can possibly. I mean, and they've said like we had to drop our standards. We had to, it was basically a full-time job for 2 people, just nonstop hiring. I don't know how you can possibly maintain culture. How can you maintain?
And why is that good? What does that let you do? Like what can you do with 100 people that you couldn't do with like 30 really good people?
Yeah.
Or 20.
And that's what, Basecamp has proven that like they're this far into it, wildly successful business by any measure. And they only have, I think, a team of 50, and I don't know how many of those are engineers, maybe 20 or something. So yeah, I don't think you have to continue growing your team to continue growing your revenue and your business. It's interesting to push back against the notion that like we're big now, we have funding now, we need to scale up dramatically. I think that may be the right choice for your business, and maybe if you really need to do that much work in parallel, but it's not safe to assume that that's the right choice.
It sounds like consulting at that point. Like if you have to keep hiring people to grow revenue, then like just go sell your time.
Yeah, right.
You got me fired up.
Yeah. But I think the other key is that the companies that are doing it successfully are always reevaluating their processes. What got you to your point today will not necessarily get you to the next milestone. And so that's what I'm trying to be, is really thoughtful about this. And even though we're like only adding a few engineers every couple of months, I think it's still worth reevaluating. Like, are we reaching a breaking point? Is this team size becoming too unwieldy? Now we need to split off. And what's the best way to do that? And I think it's a worthwhile exercise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, definitely. I think that introspection is huge. It's crucial.
Yep.
Cool. Well, shall we wrap it up?
Yeah, let's wrap it.
Okay. If you'd like to access the show notes for this episode, you can go to artofproductpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
See ya.
I'm not hitting stop.
All right.
I'm just going straight to postlude. I think we should call it the postlude.
Yeah, we got a lot of love for that on Twitter, man.
Lots of love. I also had people come up to me and say, I thought you had just forgotten to hit stop. And I was all set to like reach out to you on Twitter, be like, oh my God, you accidentally released an episode and it's got your private thoughts on it.
I love
which
that.
I think is awesome. I did too.
That is
like,
exactly
what
I want to have.
Yeah, I wanted the drama. It's good stuff.
Yeah.
No, I think we should keep the segment. I was also like realizing last night I was like, I'm looking forward to recording the podcast more, knowing that we're going to do this bit.
Yeah.
Like it just made it more interesting to me.
One thought I had is that I think it's worth looking at our download numbers to make sure that the longer episode time does not harm. Which then, I mean, I guess the alternative would be like we just literally split the file into two if that becomes a hurdle potentially, you know?
Sure. Yep. So you think people might like look at it and be like, "Oh, that looks too long." Basically, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I tend to like burn out faster on podcasts that are like hour plus length because I just feel like I don't quite have time to listen to that. You know,
that's fair. Yeah, it might be worth splitting it because of that. It's not a bad reason.
But maybe we could probably look at the data and see what, you know.
Yeah, let's keep an eye on that. It's too early to tell.
Yep.
The last episode 25 came out recently, so I can't tell what the total downloads are going to be on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Just a thought that crossed my mind.
No, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Also, Advent of Code is starting up. Did you see that?
No, what's that?
Are you aware of that? So Advent of Code is a programming competition that runs in December, and they release one challenge every day. And it's technically like a race, like whoever can get the solution the fastest, like gets on the leaderboard or points or something. I think a lot of people don't treat it as a race; they just treat it as like interesting programming puzzles. So I've been feeling the itch to write some more code because I haven't in a while.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to try to tackle some of these with Elm and maybe a little bit of Clojure too.
Nice. So you get to pick your language of choice to tackle
they're
the
just
challenge?
they're just agnostic puzzles, and they basically just ask you to solve. I don't know actually how you prove you solved a thing yet. I haven't actually done one.
Okay.
But I know you can do it with whatever language you want.
Yeah. That sounds fun.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to doing some of those. Just like getting up this morning and being like, oh, like I'm going to write some code today. It's like, oh, wow, that sounds fun instead of just like, less fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, do you have any other, it's like you don't have any side projects going on right now on code?
Not really. So I'm trying to figure out, so no coding side projects, no. I'm trying to figure out what to do next. Like, so the code quality challenge wraps up. Oh, I just activated Alexa. Alexa, stop.
This is great radio.
Alexa, stop. She's a little too sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm feeling that itch. So like, all right, I want to build a thing. Or like make a product or launch a thing or something. Like it's time. 'Cause the challenge wraps up next week. And I'm like, okay, I can kick off another cohort of that. And now the challenges are basically all written, which is cool. But like, I want to make a thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
Yeah. So, I mean, are you like itching to do SaaS, or is like you not sure what?
I am a little bit, I guess. Like I don't know. I'm trying to decide. Like my immediate audience and opportunity is certainly in another educational thing. Like now I have this list of people that have bought a thing from me and a list of people that have gone through the challenge, and so it's like there's probably a decent amount of money just awaiting an excuse to spend it.
Right. Yeah.
So that's tempting.
Yeah.
But also, I don't know. I mean, I miss software. And I just I feel like I have this skill set, or like I've built SaaS apps, I've made subscription sites, I am pretty okay at it. And I feel like I'm not using those skills. And like maybe there's a thing in here somewhere that I'm just not getting to.
Yeah. It would be nice. Like it'd be ideal to leverage the audience, the momentum you've built up around your recent educational products. But I don't know if there's an interesting enough piece of software along those lines that you would want to tackle,
Yeah, that's true. It's tough to make software for developers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Although,
I'm still go ahead.
I tend to consume a lot more podcasts when I'm traveling, and I've been diving into the Acquired podcast. Have you heard of it? So it's just these two hosts that talk about company acquisitions, IPOs, and I think that's the main thing, like private company acquisitions and IPOs. And I feel like I caught some early episodes of it, and it was pretty decent. And then I've been listening to more recent episodes, and they're really, really fascinating. I think they're getting better over time. And they dove into the Atlassian IPO, which Atlassian is one of the the kind of the OG new wave of SaaS companies. Got in real early, 2003, 2004. But my gosh, what an amazing company that they've built. And I never quite realized that. I see them, they've built Jira, Confluence, they acquired Bitbucket, they acquired Trello. So I see them like appearing to kill it in the market. But in this episode, they kind of dove into the fundamentals of the business. They were bootstrapped all the way up until IPO, basically. And they sold, they had like two rounds where they sold shares to institutional investors, but it was purely secondary market. So just taking money off the table for founders and option holders. And like leading up to their IPO, I think they were throwing off like $100 million in free cash flow, and they never raised a dime. Like, and there's a company all about developer tools. So it's fascinating that like, they're a major incumbent, but I think it just is another data point that like it is possible. And the other thing is they don't have any sales people. Like that was their whole model because they were bootstrapped. They couldn't really afford the investment in a sales team. So it's like, all right, we're just going to do it purely on marketing and letting the product have the level of quality it needs to sell itself. So super inspirational. Obviously, like
okay. So you think I should found Atlassian?
There you go. Take down Jira.
Yeah, I mean, that probably would like. I think there's a ton of niches in there, right?
Yeah.
Like there are probably a lot of people listening to this podcast who have to use Jira, who hate it, who if something had a better option might switch to it.
Yeah.
Like there's always the build another project management tool, but for a small niche angle. I think that can work.
It's interesting to me that like there's I've just been going through another round of reevaluating our tooling, and I try to like think about process first, and then the tooling is there to support it, and not think about like driving process by the tools chosen. Which is tempting to do. Like you see a shiny new tool and you're like, I want to use that for my process, but you got to make sure you got your process nailed down first, and then pick the right tool to support it. Right. But even now, like I'm struggling to find a really, because I don't like heavyweight, and I think Jira to me, I haven't really used Jira in any like major capacity, but I just feel like it's not lightweight. So
yeah.
But then there's like things like Trello that are maybe a little too lightweight. Like there's some issues with that too. So I'm like trying to find something in the sweet spot, and it's actually not that easy.
Don't you want something that's like built like just like on top of GitHub issues with a little bit more structure?
Well, that's the funny thing. I feel like we're actually maybe outgrowing CodeTree a bit.
Interesting.
And it was great when we were a small team. But I'm now seeing kind of the breaking points of that. The biggest problem is it's hard to visualize the state of the world. Like it was great when we were basically one giant team, or we weren't giant, but we were basically one team. So we could see every developer's queue. Most tasks were basically independent work, but now these days, a majority of things are cross-functional. And there's a lot of things going on concurrently. So being able to maintain the set of priorities, so that everyone knows what they need to be working on, and also putting things in a time-bound fashion in some kind of cycle, and like all these things that we want to do is pretty difficult to accomplish in CodeTree. So,
interesting.
If I still owned it, I would probably be like iterating on it and figure out how to make it work for larger teams.
Right. That's what happens when you sell your baby, though, I guess.
Yeah, I know.
No, it's somebody else's roadmap. I had a cool thing happen. somebody posted a link to my course on the Rails subreddit, which is nice.
Yeah.
And I saw that thread and I was like, oh boy. And like, it's like, because you never, like, people on the internet comment, Alexa, what are you doing? What did you hear that you thought was you? Cancel. Jesus.
I didn't even hear you say anything remotely similar to Alexa.
That's how I feel. But anyway, so I saw that, and there's already there were 15 comments on the thing when I got there, and I was like, oh boy. And I read through all of them, and they were basically all really positive.
Wow.
Which was really gratifying.
Congrats.
Yeah.
All positive internet comments. This is amazing.
There was one guy that had a critique of one thing I said in a video. It's like, oh, okay, fine. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But overall, it was really pretty glowing, which was wonderful. And so I dropped in and was like, hey, here's a discount code, and thanks for the kind words.
That's cool. Was it? Yeah. I'm always reminded how small a lot of these communities are. Like the Ruby community has its people who, it's household names for people who are in the community. But was this a lot of just people you've never heard of, just people, random developers? Yep. That's cool.
Yeah. And it was nice. Previous sales day, the day before, I sold $300 or 3 sales worth of the product, and then yesterday was 11, so it was just nice little bump.
Yeah.
Nice. It's cool. It makes you realize why didn't maybe this would be frowned on, but why didn't I post this on the Rails subreddit? How many low hanging fruit things are there like that? Where it's why didn't you just put it over here so more people can find it? Right. I think there's actually still a lot of marketing juice or marketing effort that could be put into the thing I've already made. My tendency is to move on to the next thing, but it's have you actually really put the worthwhile work into this one? And the answer is probably not quite.
Yeah. Add that to a playbook somewhere for future reference.
Definitely. Or just go do it.
Yeah.
Just spend the time.
Were you on Product Hunt at all? Do you know?
No.
Yeah.
That's Product Hunt. I don't understand. It's this is one of those sites I never got into.
Yeah.
You just post your stuff on there. It's I don't know.
Well, I guess
I should.
It's one of those things where there was arbitrage opportunities in the beginning. Around the time I was launching CodeTree was early days for Product Hunt, right when they started to get traction, but it was still pretty nascent. And I think someone else actually posted it on there, but it was featured on the main list because there were just not that many things being posted on a daily basis. So most things made it onto the homepage for that day. And that was cool. It got I got a fair bump out of that. I can't remember how many dollars it actually translated into, but it was something.
Okay.
But I think these days it's really difficult to I think there's hacks you can do. There are people who are in the inner circle, and if they upvote it or they do something, then that almost guarantees it appears on the homepage. But I think it's really difficult now to get there because, and I don't fault them for that. They probably have hundreds and hundreds of postings every day and they can't feature them all.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's probably worth doing whatever the quick submission thing is to it, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's hard to know how various channels are going to perform until you actually give them a shot.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. That's probably worth doing. I think I found a drip bug, by the way.
Oh no.
It's don't worry, there are very few drip bugs that I've ever run into. I know I bring them to you, but it's not that I have a negative perception. It's just I think I'm good at finding edge cases because I'm a programmer.
You're a programmer.
Do you want to hear it?
Yeah. What's happening?
All right. So when I send out the challenge or the exercise for the code quality thing, I'm using broadcasts, and so I duplicate a broadcast every time. And I found that if I duplicate a broadcast and then edit the email and then move to the next step where I go to the settings tab basically, and then go back to the email, I see the email from the original thing that I duplicated.
Oh, interesting. But if you refresh the page, does it?
If I refresh the page, it works, I believe.
Okay.
I see the new one. I think it's just a caching thing. Where something's not triggering a cache refresh or something.
Okay.
That's my guess from the outside.
Yeah.
And I saw it in a different... I saw what felt like the same bug in a slightly different angle the other night. I can't remember what it was.
This
It might have
reminds
been
me
on the preview tab. Yeah, I went to the preview tab for something, and it was also the old email. Something like that.
Interesting. Okay. This reminds me of this weird. I think we finally have a comprehensive like fix in place for it. This weird bug where I think it at least happens in Chrome. Not sure about other browsers. If you make an AJAX request, like so the page loads, and if it does an AJAX request to like the same URL, but with a JSON content type to fetch, like presuming that you have like a JSON route at the same URL, but one that serves up JSON that has some like additional lazy loaded content or whatever. Mm-hmm. If you do that and then you click something in the browser and then you hit back, it spits out the JSON, the raw JSON on the page, because it basically overwrites the browser cache for that page. Like it doesn't detect the fact that this is JSON and not HTML, and it shouldn't overwrite the cache. I think this bug has been, I mean, I consider it a bug, but I think it's been the behavior of Chrome for years. And manifests
It's not
itself.
a good look.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, bam, a bunch of JSON. Like, it broke a lot, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and then like the uninitiated user doesn't know what JSON is, thinks that the app is horribly broken, or that we have some major bug or something. It's like no, it's just refresh the page. But
yeah. It's great as usual. Refresh, turn it off and on again.
Yeah,
it'll work.
Yeah,
state management is hard.
Yeah, totally.
All
Well,
right.
Noted. We'll get right on that.
Yeah, good. Give it to one of your 600 or 1,000 engineers.
Yeah.
Put it in the queue of the 147 person bug fixing team.
Yeah, I will.
That can't be right. No one can have no one can have 1,000 engineers. That doesn't work. I'm just going to say it right now.
I mean, these companies like Uber. I think Uber has like 2,000 or something. I'm sure it's changing every week.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I want to know more.
Yeah, and like I also wonder if like I've heard a lot of experiences from experienced engineering leaders who have gone whole hog into service-oriented architecture, and a lot of times the motivation for that is just purely so that you can have a team who takes ownership of this specific slice, and then there's APIs that are the contracts between different teams. But then there's so many negatives that come with SOA, where you have, now method calls are HTTP calls with latency, and how do you deploy a change to one thing and make sure you don't break downstream things? And
totally,
there's like all this complexity, and but like that, I feel like that's almost the de facto in the industry. It's like, well, just go SOA, and then you can scale out infinitely because you just break everything into hundreds or thousands of microservices. And it's like, I don't envision us ever doing that. So
yeah, that would scare me a lot.
Yeah.
All right. I think we should wrap up.
Let's do it.
Good talking to you.
You too, man.
Good secret podcast, too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All righty. Same time next week?
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, well, actually, it'll be Thursday. We're recording on a Friday, and it'll...
Yeah, I'm sorry, not same time, but the usual time.
Yeah.
Perfect. All righty.
All right.
Talk to you
man.
next time.
Okay,
Later.
bye.